Didn't get promoted? Let me guess what just happened. You put in the hours, you delivered results, you stayed late, you carried more responsibility than most of the people on your team. And then the announcement came. Someone else got the role, and it felt like the air left the room. Well, here's what most people don't realize. Promotions aren't decided based on effort. They're not decided based on loyalty. And they're definitely not decided based on who deserves it emotionally. They're decided based on something most high performers are never told. And if you don't understand this, you can stay stuck for years. But once you do, everything about how you approach your career changes. Let me tell you how leadership actually makes these promotion decisions. Welcome to the channel. If you're new here, I'm Thomas Schmidt, and I've spent more than 3 decades as a technology and business executive, including roles as COO, CMO, and head of product, leading teams through multiple industry and technology disruptions. Today, I work with organizations to optimize how they manage technology, streamline operations, and sharpen both their marketing and product strategies. But I also work with mid-career professionals who are trying to understand why the rules they followed successfully for years have suddenly stopped working. Okay, let's dig in. The comparison spiral. What you immediately start thinking. Let's talk about what usually happens next. You start comparing yourself to the person who got promoted. You replay everything in your head and you think, I have more experience than them. I understand the systems better. I've been here longer. I carry more responsibility. I do more actual work. And on paper, you might even be right. And that's what makes it so frustrating, because it doesn't feel like you lost a promotion. It feels like your effort wasn't recognized. Your loyalty didn't matter. Your competence wasn't rewarded. And some people get very angry. Some people get bitter. And some quietly disengage. And some start doubting themselves. All of this is normal. But here's the uncomfortable truth most people never hear. Promotions are not decided the way high performers assume they are. Let me explain why I can speak to this. I've spent decades in executive and senior leadership roles, sitting in leadership planning meetings, succession discussions, performance calibration sessions, and promotion reviews. I've watched managers debate candidates behind closed doors. And I can tell you something clearly. Most promotions are not decided based on who worked the hardest. They're decided based on perceived future readiness. That difference matters more than most people realize. The biggest promotion myth. Here's the myth that holds good employees back. That promotions are rewards for past performance, and they're not. Promotions are bets on future behavior. Leadership isn't asking, who deserves this for what they already did? They're asking, who can handle more responsibility, more ambiguity, more pressure, and more visibility without creating risk? That shifts the entire evaluation. They start looking at things like decision-making under stress, judgment calls, communications maturity, leadership presence, stakeholder trust, and the ability to influence others, not just output volume. And this is why some of the hardest working people in companies remain stuck, while others move up faster. They're optimizing for performance, and leadership is optimizing for future stability and future leadership potential. The connections and nepotism reality check. Okay, let's address the elephant in the room. Connections, favoritism, office politics. Yes, sometimes relationships influence promotions. Yes, favoritism exists in some environments. Yes, unfair decisions happen. But here's where many people sabotage themselves mentally. They use this explanation as a permanent excuse. They tell themselves, oh, it's rigged, it's all politics, it doesn't matter what I do. And that mindset quietly removes your leverage. Because in most organizations, promotions are not random favors. They're trust decisions. Leaders promote people they feel safe handing responsibility to. That trust is built through consistency, visibility, communications, reliability, and professional behavior. Even when relationships help, it's usually because the trust already exists. So instead of focusing on what you can't control, the smarter move is to understand how trust is built inside organizations and start intentionally building it. Why the other person actually got promoted. Okay, well, let's go back to the person who got the promotion instead of you. In many cases, they were not technically better than you, but they were often better positioned. They were stronger at communicating their impact, managing upward, representing the team, handling ambiguity, staying calm under pressure, and building internal trust. Leadership didn't just see what they delivered, they saw how that person behaved in difficult situations. They saw how they handled conflict, how they interacted with stakeholders, how they spoke in meetings, and how they framed problems. And leadership thought, hey, this person can represent us at the next level. That perception matters more than people realize. Promotions are not spreadsheets, they're judgment calls. And here's what most employees never see. Behind closed doors, promotion conversations don't sound like performance reviews. They sound like risk assessments. Leaders ask questions like, can this person represent us in front of senior stakeholders? Will they handle pressure without creating drama? Do they escalate problems intelligently or emotionally? Can they manage people who used to be their peers? Notice what's missing? They're not saying who worked the most overtime, who answered the most emails, who closed the most tickets. They're trying to avoid making a costly leadership mistake. And this is why someone who appears less qualified on paper can still win the role, because leadership is selecting for future behavior, not past output. And once you understand that, promotion decisions stop feeling random and start looking predictable. Behavioral blind spots that block promotions. Now, let's talk about the part most people avoid. Your own behavior might quietly be working against you, even if your performance is strong. Here's some common blind spots. The lone wolf trap. Okay, well, some high performers do everything themselves. They solve problems alone, they carry extra workload, and they become indispensable. But leadership doesn't promote bottlenecks. They promote people who scale. If everything depends on you personally, leadership hesitates to move you upward because it creates operational risk. The show-off effect. Some talented employees dominate conversations. They correct people publicly. They over-explain their expertise. They try to prove they're the smartest person in the room. That doesn't signal leadership. It signals ego risk. And executives don't want to promote someone who creates tension, defensiveness, or team friction. The one-person team mentality. Well, if you act like you don't need others, leadership assumes that you won't lead others well. Promotions are not about individual brilliance. They're about influence, collaboration, and stability. No one wants to promote someone who behaves like a solo operation. And here's a quick reality check most people skip. Ask yourself honestly, how do people feel after interacting with me at work? Do they feel supported or corrected? Motivated or intimidated? Clear or confused? Respected or talked over? Because leadership pays attention to emotional impact, not just deliverables. So if coworkers consistently avoid collaborating with you, hesitate to loop you into projects, or stay quiet around you in meetings, leadership notices that pattern. Not consciously, but intuitively. Promotions go to people who create psychological safety and not just technical results. So if you want to move up, your behavior has to make others feel better, not smaller. The promotion shift, what to do differently. Now, let's get into what actually works. This is where you regain control. Shift number 1, stop optimizing for tasks and start optimizing for outcomes. So instead of reporting activity like I completed the project, start communicating impact. So what problem did this solve? What risk did this reduce? What business result did this create? Leadership promotes people who understand business outcomes, not just task completion. Shift number 2, become strategically visible, not loud. Visibility is not about bragging, it's communication. Don't assume leadership automatically sees everything you do. They don't. You need to summarize progress clearly, share outcomes regularly, and frame work in a leadership language. This creates alignment and trust. Shift number 3, act like the role before you get the title. Okay, well, you need to start behaving like the next level now. Support your teammates, anticipate problems, stabilize projects, and take ownership of gray areas. Leadership promotes people who already look like leaders, not people waiting to become one. Weekly promotion positioning habit. Here's a simple habit that actually changes how leadership perceives you. Once a week, ideally Friday, ask yourself, what meaningful outcome did I move this week? Who benefited from my work? What responsibility did I handle that signals readiness for more? Then send a short update to your manager or stakeholders. Not long, not bragging, just clear and professional. Over time, this builds visibility, trust, and leadership perception, and that compounds. So if you didn't get promoted, it doesn't mean you failed. It doesn't mean you were untalented. It means you were optimizing for performance while leadership was evaluating readiness for future responsibility. And once you understand that difference, everything changes. You stop waiting to be noticed and you start positioning yourself intentionally. That's how careers actually move forward. And if this helped you understand what happened in your situation, let me know in the comments. What do you think held you back? And if you want more insider level career strategy like this, don't forget to hit like and subscribe, because your future career is shaped by the decisions you make right now. Until next time, take care, be kind to yourself, and keep leaning into what makes you strong. And I'll see you in the next one.